Hey everyone, welcome into our latest TDR Podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and today we've got major developments on the global trade front this week. The US and China have just announced a new framework deal, one that could shake up markets in a big way. But here's the twist. Canada might be next. We'll break down what's in the China deal, how the markets are reacting, and why Canada is suddenly part of this conversation. So with that, let's get into it. Let's first start with the headline. President Trump says the US and China have reached a framework trade agreement after 2 days of talks in London, building on a mini truce agreed earlier this year in Geneva. So what's the deal? Three major pieces. One is tariffs. The U.S. will keep a 55% tariff on Chinese goods. In return, China will impose a 10% tariff on American exports. No tariff cuts, just a freeze on further escalation. Number two is rare earth minerals. China will resume exports of rare earth materials critical for EVs, electronics, and defense applications on a fast-track 6-month schedule. Number three is student visas. The U.S. will lift restrictions on Chinese student visas, allowing academic flows to resume and helping U.S. institutions regain international tuition dollars. So the question then is this a real trade deal? Not quite. It's more of a pause than a resolution. Core issues like tech access, supply chain control, and IP protections are still on the table. So with that, what was the market reaction? Markets saw a quick rally, but it didn't last. The S&P and NASDAQ dipped slightly, and the Dow was flat. Inflation is still hanging over everything. May's U.S. CPI came in at 2.4%, and Trump continues to advocate for rate cuts, adding another layer to the market outlook. So really, what's next? President Trump and President Xi still need to sign off officially. A 90-day pause on new tariffs is in effect until July the 9th. Behind the scenes, tech competition and economic nationalism remain major sticking points. So bottom line, this was a signal to calm the waters, not smooth them over. But it does unlock near-term progress on rare earth supplies and student mobility. With the China deal cooling things down, the focus is now shifting north. New reports suggest the US and Canada are now deep into talks on a new economic and security framework. So, could Canada be next? According to new reports, negotiations from Ottawa and Washington are fast-tracking discussions that could reshape Canada-US trade. So what's driving it? Number one, of course, is tariffs. Back on March 4th, the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on most Canadian exports and 10% on energy, reigniting steel and aluminum tensions. Number two was Canada's response. Prime Minister Mark Carney pushed back hard, calling the tariffs unjustified and demanding their removal in any deal. And number three, where do talks stand now? Sources say ministers on both sides are exchanging draft documents. But just like with China, Trump has final sign-off. So what are the key sticking points? Again, the first thing that comes to mind are tariffs and their rollbacks. Canada wants full removal. The U.S. may tie this to security commitments. Number two is border enforcement, immigration, and cross-border tracking. It could be linked to trade access. And in addition to that is defense cooperation. A push for deeper military and intelligence collaboration may be on the table. So if you're Canadian, what are the key questions for you? One are the tariff carve-outs. Will we see exemptions for sectors like auto parts, energy, or lumber? Another thing that comes to mind is the USMCA compliance. Any new deal must align or be modified from current USMCA terms. Another thing is security provisions. Could this include joint efforts on fentanyl control or defense integration? And then finally, timeline. Markets and supply chains are watching. Delays could hurt business confidence. So what should Canadian businesses be bracing for? One, and again, I'll keep elaborating off of this, is tariff relief. If Canada secures carve-outs like China did with rare earths, exporters could regain competitiveness quickly. Number two thing comes to mind is political risk. With Trump holding the pen, U.S. domestic politics could either accelerate or derail the deal. Third is supply chain interruption. The auto and energy sectors are tightly integrated. More tariffs mean more cost shocks. And four, investment delays. Uncertainty could freeze corporate strategy, inventory hiring, expansion, all on pause until there's clarity. So what's the playbook? Watch for any U.S. tariff rollback announcement. Pay close attention to border immigration clauses that may be trade deal bargaining chips. And monitor every signal out of Washington, because Trump's approval remains the linchpin. So to wrap this up, yes, the China deal is progress, but it's far from a breakthrough. And with Canada possibly next, the stakes are high. Any agreement will likely involve not just trade relief, but major security and border commitments too, and a critical one for Canadian businesses. If you rely on trade, supply chains, or cross-border investment, now's the time to stay sharp. So with that, that's it for today. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you like this video and content we produced, give it a like, share it with your network, and leave your comments. Love to get your feedback on how the US and Canada could start their negotiations and really what makes sense for both countries. Let's keep this conversation going. In the meantime, like I always say, stay open-minded, stay connected, and I'll see you next time. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and thanks again for watching.